All right, who was your fighter of the year? Who was the best fighter in mixed martial arts in 2022? That is what this video is all about. Now, fighter of the year, what does that entail? Well, obviously, it's going to be the fighter that impressed you the most, that won the most, that inspired you the most, that had the best story, that had the greatest rise, the fighter that went out there that impressed you more than anybody. And this isn't just my vote, this is your votes. We put a poll up and we got over 200,000 votes. So thank you to all of you for getting involved, giving us your votes. And yeah, we'll go through some of them. As I say, we had a poll, best fighter of the year, 5 fighters in total. As I said, almost 200,000 people voted. And we're going to have other polls for submission of the year, knockout of the year, etc, etc. So keep an eye on them ones. But let's get into them right now. Now, first of all, before we say who the top 5 are, we got a couple of honorable mentions. And the first one is Sergey Pavlovich. Sergey Pavlovich right now has a record of 17-1 with 14 knockouts. That one came in his UFC debut versus Alistair Overeem. Got caught, got taken down, got pounded out. But since then, that man has been on an absolute tear, knocking everybody out in round 1. The knockout power that this man possesses is unbelievable. Now, Sergey did acquire 5,160 of the 200,000 votes. But, as I say, this year, 2022, 3 knockouts, all first round finishes, broke into the UFC heavyweight top 5. Earlier in March, UFC London knocked out Shamil Abdurakhimov. Followed that up with a huge win. Okay, knocked out Derek Lewis, UFC 277, that was back in July. And then most recently, he knocked out Tai Tuivasa at a UFC Fight Night in December. I called it in Orlando, Florida. Knocked Tai Tuivasa out in 54 seconds. And as I say, Sergey Pavlovich, this man is only 30 years old. Does he have what it takes to be a champion? Will he be a champion one day? Let me know in the comment section. And another honourable mention, and this is kind of sad, isn't it really, because Israel Adesanya is who I'm talking about, the long-time champion, and I'm sure this man has been fighter of the year many, many times, and he got hundreds of mentions in the comment section. Listen, Israel Adesanya has been the man, but of course this year his reign came to an end. But he had a good year though. He defeated Robert Whittaker back at UFC 271 in February. He followed that up with a great victory over Jared Cannonier at UFC 276. But he would have followed that up with a great victory over Alex Pereira. But in the final round, Pereira rallied, got the finish, whilst Izzy was still on his feet, to be fair. But still, there we go. 2022 didn't end the way that Izzy would like it to, but still, honourable mentions. Anyway, I've waffled for long enough. Here are the top 5 fighters as voted by you. Number 5, of course, Jiri Prochazka, the former light heavyweight champion of the world. Okay, this man only 1-0 in the UFC in 2022, probably why he came in at 5th. But that one fight that he had against Glover Teixeira in Singapore, I was there, I commentated that fight. I mean, Jiri Prochazka talks about being a samurai. That fight embodied the samurai spirit. Now, coming into this, he had 11,700 votes. Okay, as we know, as I just said it, that fight with Glover Teixeira, back and forth action. They both nearly finished each other a number of times, but it was in the final round. Round 5, an absolutely exhausted Glover Teixeira went for a double leg takedown. Jiri Prochazka got the guillotine, and there it is. That's all she wrote. And new motherfucker, Jiri Prochazka, what a guy. Now, as we know, coming into the rematch for UFC, whatever it was, 282, which just went down, he injured his shoulder. One of the worst shoulder injuries that we've ever seen, apparently, according to Dana White. And I can't wait for him to come back. Jiri Prochazka vacated the title like a true samurai because he wanted the division to move on. I mean, come on. If that isn't a true warrior, if that isn't a samurai, if that doesn't embody the martial arts spirit, I don't know what does. Rest up, Jiri Prochazka. Can't wait to see you back, buddy. Number 4, Khamzat Chimaev. That's right, Boars, the Wolf, whatever you want to call him. 12-0 in mixed martial arts and 2-0 in 2022 inside the octagon. And this guy, Khamzat, got 15,000 120 votes. Now, listen, Khamzat Chimaev, this man has been sensational since he came to the UFC, and he started this year off with his first fight against Gilbert Burns, which was the toughest fight of his career. Up until that point, Khamzat had just wiped the floor with everyone, picked him up, spoke to Dana White as he was doing so, slam him on the floor, choke him out, talk some shit, go home, hardly even broke a sweat. Well, against Gilbert Burns, it was very, very different. He went out there, tried to just disrespect him, but Gilbert Burns ain't no walk in the park. He ain't no mug, and he knows how to slug. He's also got great jiu-jitsu as well. So when it hit the ground, he gave Khamzat, a little bit of a competition there. In the third round, Gilbert Burns came back firing big. A back and forth fight, absolutely fantastic. One of the best fights of the year. Khamzat Chimaev, though, got the nod. And of course, as we know, he was meant to have his next fight against Nate Diaz, giving Nate Diaz his swan song. That was going to be at UFC 279. But as we know, and this is going to cost him some votes, to be honest, because to be fighter of the year, you're going to be a great fighter. You're going to be entertaining. But you've also got to make weight, okay? And as we know, UFC 279 didn't even come close to doing that. So the fight with Diaz was scrapped, and then he was rematched with Kevin Holland. But of course, he passed that test with flying colours. Absolutely love Kevin Holland. The man is entertainment from start to finish, but he couldn't compete with Khamzat that night. Khamzat went out, wiped the floor. The wrestling, man. All right, and to be fair, it was a little bit out of order. They went to touch gloves. Khamzat shot, took him down, eventually got the submission. But Khamzat Chimaev, still undefeated, 12-0, no doubt going to have a massive 2023. Who do you think he should fight next? All right, coming in at number 3, it is Islam Makhachev. 23-1 in mixed martial arts, 2-0 in the UFC in 2022. And from you guys, he got a huge 28,800 votes. As I say, went 2-0 this year, fought Bobby Green on a fight night way back in February. Bobby Green can wrestle. Bobby Green can fight. Islam dominated him and got the submission. And then, of course, went up against Charles Oliveira, Dude Bronx, the man of the moment, the man that I said, if he was to defeat Islam, would be the greatest lightweight of all time. I was attacked by every Islam-loving guy on the planet. The Dagestanis came after me. The inbox was full of insults. But guess what? I said, if an Islam didn't get defeated, Islam beat him. Islam choked him out. UFC 280, October, Abu Dhabi, Fight Island, and new first submission loss for Oliveira in over 6 years. Now, most people have him as the number 2 pound for pound pick. But as I say, got a lot of votes. How many again? It was 28,800 votes. But he comes in at number 3, Islam Makhachev. Huge fight with Volkanovski coming up in February, Perth, Australia. But Islam Makhachev, your number 3 fighter of the year. All right, now we're getting down to it. Number 2, who could it be? It is, of course, Alex Pereira, 7-1. Yes, 7-1 in mixed martial arts. The man is an absolute rookie, but 3 of those fights were in 2022, and he got 34,100 of the votes. Now, the former 2-division Glory kickboxing champion, as I say, he went 3-0 with 2 huge KOs. Now, in March, he beat Bruno Silva by decision. Right? Doesn't sound that impressive. Bruno Silva's a great fighter. But more importantly, going the distance, going to a decision against Bruno Silva, it's all experience, baby. But it doesn't matter because he got another shot. International fight with UFC 276. He went up against the loudmouth redneck that is the one and only Sean Strickland. Knocked him out in 2 minutes and 36 seconds of round 1 and gained himself performance of the night. Now, of course, we all know the story with Pereira. He'd fought Israel Adesanya twice, beat him once by decision and knocked him out once. So, of course, he was getting a fast track to a title because we all wanted to see it because Izzy is that good. He'd gone through the entire division. But what happened? Well, it looked like Israel Adesanya was on his way to getting a victory, but more importantly, getting revenge, okay? Adesanya rocked him at the end of round 1. Pereira came back in round 2, landing some good shots of his own. Round 3, they started wrestling. 2 kickboxers engaging in a sambo grappling match on the ground that white belts would laugh at. But it doesn't matter because on the feet, they're 2 of the very best in the world. They went back and forth, back and forth. Round 5, Israel Adesanya had it in the bag. Round 5, Alex Pereira came out like an absolute madman. Knew he had to get the finish, and that's exactly what he got. My God, what a fight that was. And Alex Pereira once again defeats the last style bender. The last style bender? Will it be the last time that he holds the belt? We don't know because they're going to rematch next year which of course brings us to numero uno, the number one, your fighter of the year for 2022. It is the one and only. It is the great, the good, the fantastic Alexander the Great Volkanovski. 2-0 in 2022 with a massive 59,400 votes. Listen, come on, Alexander Volkanovski. This man fought only twice this year, okay? But it's what he did, dominating the featherweight division. Listen, he had those 2 fights with Max Holloway. Some say he won one, some say Max won one. You know, there's a debate. Well, guess what? Volkanovski was man enough, after already being 2-0 up, to say, you know what, mate, let's do it again. Let's do a third one. Did a third one. Back in UFC 275 in July. Went out there, defeated him clearly on all judges' scorecards. 50-45. Beat him every single round. Was a step ahead. The whole time was clearly the better fighter. Alexander Volkanovski separated himself from Max Holloway. I love Max. Maxi baby, that's my guy. I'm a huge fan of him. But Volkanovski was the better guy. Volkanovski is the champ. And of course, earlier at UFC 273, he put a ridiculous beat down on the Korean zombie. Chang Sung-jung went down in round 4. And there it is. Right now, Alexander Volkanovski is considered to be the pound for pound number 1. And February, Perth, Australia, he's going up against the pound for pound number 2. In Islam Makhachev, trying to become a double champ. So, let's go through it. Alexander Volkanovski, featherweight champion of the world. Alexander Volkanovski, potentially a 2-weight division champ. Alexander Volkanovski, pound for pound, best fighter on the planet right now. And according to the Michael Bisping YouTube channel, the fighter of the year. And guess what? It gets even better because he was the guest of the year on the Believe You Me podcast. That is correct. I spoke to him yesterday at length. Me and him, we sat down for 45 minutes. We went through all kinds of stuff. That video is dropping on this channel in about an hour or 2. So stay tuned for that one. Thank you very much. Hope you're all well. Hope you're gearing up for a fantastic Christmas. I got more videos coming this week. Submission of the year. Female fighter of the year. I don't know. I forget what the divisions are. I forget what the categories are. But don't worry. I won't forget to do the videos. Subscribe. Ring the bell. And Merry goddamn Christmas.